2024 has definitely been a year that truly got us through at the last stretch. The first 8 months have been pretty bad with terrible movie after terrible movie, but then the last 4 months have truly saved this year with a handful of great movies. It's more or less to me what 2013 was to a lot of people. And before I get to the list itself, here are a few honorable mentions. Movies I really liked but not enough to make the list. The First Omen, Wallace and Gromit Adventures Most Foul, Twisters, Boy Kills World, Joker, Follow You Do, and The Watchers. Alright, let's get down to business. My top 20 best films of the year. Starting with ever since 2022's Triple R, there's been a bit of an interest in Indian films here in America, and this was a good way for me to jump in the bandwagon. I was already on board with this when I saw this man inadvertently get in the middle of this massive train robbery, but once the title card shows up halfway, that's when shit hits the fan. And by shit, I mean body parts. Pedro Almodovar has always made some interesting movies, and this was no exception. The story about old friends who reconnect when one of them is on her last legs is definitely a somber one, held together by Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore, who each give it their all. I had to tie these two because they're rather similar. Both movies should have been boring as sin as they follow a Pope election and a jury trial respectively, but Edward Berger and Clint Eastwood found a way to make it work with their stellar cast, pacing, and filmmaking. And to David Zaslav, I only have this. After what seems like a long time of Tim Burton being dragged by mediocre Hollywood content, it seems like this and the Wednesday Show have put him back on the map. With a stellar cast, visuals, and mix of practical effects and CG, this is bound to please both those who grew up with this movie and casual moviegoers alike. A24 has had its fair share of weird-ass horror movies, and this is no exception. The story about two friends who bond over this weird TV show lends the way to compelling coming-of-age drama and trippy visuals, and it's best to go into this movie as blind as possible. When I saw both Robot Dreams and The Wild Robot that same year, this is the masterpiece I wanted from both those movies. Story about a group of animals who set aside their differences in order to survive a massive flood is both visually stunning and emotionally compelling, and my fingers are crossed for this to win the Oscar this year. If I had a nickel every time Adrien Brody played a Holocaust survivor whose title ends with "ist" and is the frontrunner to win Best Actor, I'd have 2 nickels. This is like an old school historical epic as this guy comes to America in hopes to get a better life, only to discover that the American dream isn't what it seems. If you would have told me 5 years ago that the trailer that launched 1,000 fan petitions would go on to lead one of the most successful trilogies in recent memory, I would have called you mental. But here we are, as these movies continue to get bigger, better, and more like the Marvel phenomenon that once was in the 2010s. How do you like that, Obama? The story about distant cousins who bond over a Poland tour is a funny and emotional one, thanks to the chemistry between Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, the latter of which has established himself as not just a talented actor, but a promising writer-director too. I'm sure many of you have seen or even heard of the director's previous film, Mary and Max, and this movie delivers on the depressing as hell stop motion with a tiny glimmer of hope that people enjoy from that film. And if this doesn't change the mind of people who think animation is a kids genre, then nothing will. Writer Diablo Cody and director Zelda Williams bring this fascinating blend of genres to life, telling the story about a teenage girl so alone that she'd rather have a relationship with a corpse than anyone who misunderstood her. Think of it as if Tim Burton directed Pretty in Pink. It seems like outside the Judy Garland classic and a couple others, The World of Oz hasn't exactly translated to the big screen that well for a lot of people. But thanks to the brilliant music, production values, and chemistry between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, this movie manages to defy gravity and expectations for everyone. The story about an old woman who seeks revenge against the people who wronged her lends itself to a ton of comedy and heart, and this movie more than delivers thanks to both the script and June Script's performance. After over a century since the original film's release, Robert Eggers breathes new life into the story with his eye-for striking visuals and stellar performances, including Bill Skarsgård at the only time this year he played a gothic icon without looking like a desperate tween trying to sound edgy. It's sad to see this movie bomb as hard as it did, as it combines social satire and filmmaking with stellar action sequences. At least we can all agree with this movie that it's about time the Oscars start honoring stuntmen in the industry. I was really on board with this movie when it first began, as this young woman meets the son of a wealthy businessman, but once the curtain starts to pull off, that's when this movie turns into a hell of an experience, as a Cinderella story becomes a nightmare. Guess Wolverine was right about one thing.
You couldn't even save a relationship with a damn stripper!
Pixar has been more hit or miss than they've been 2 decades ago, but this is definitely one of the bigger hits. And I'll even say this is bigger, funnier, and more emotional than the first one in every way. I can only imagine how a third movie would turn out. Arguably the sleeper hit of the year, this movie showcases how art, especially theater, can sometimes bring the best out of the worst of people. Top that off with a stellar cast, and you got this generation's Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, I thought this would be an easy number 1 until I saw a certain other movie we'll get to in a second. But this is still a tremendous adaptation of Frank Herbert's iconic novel, incorporating its fantastic characters and lore and combining it with stellar visuals and music, leaving me eager to see how Denis Villeneuve takes Undue Messiah. From that opening shot of the Walk of Fame, I knew I was in for something with this movie, and this movie delivers smart commentary on fading stardom, body image, drug dependence, and self-destruction, which just so happened to be a creepy body horror film. With stellar direction and writing, as well as 2 stand-up performances from Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, this might just be the most unique, the most eye-catching, the most visually and thematically disturbing, and overall, the best film of the entire year. I just realized I don't know how to end this video.